Hey guys, it's me, Nicola Dickens with Free My Cure. Welcome to my channel, welcome back to my channel, whichever the case may be. What are you doing? He's like, I don't know. So today I invite you for our first bedtime story. It's not even a chapter. The preface of The Emperor Wears No Clothes. So, I kind of set up for this. It took me a little while. I didn't know if I wanted to actually film it in my bed or what I wanted to do, but I think it does give that bedtime story kind of feel. So, I was thinking ahead, and I got me a Jack Hare pre-roll, so I thought that'd be a perfect thing to smoke while we read. If I can light it all the way. Alright, so let's do this. The Emperor Wears No Clothes by Jack Hare. So, this is the official 14th edition. It has been rewritten that many times. Okay, so dedication to Edwin Captain Ed M. Adair III, born October 29th, 1940, died August 16th, 1991 of leukemia. Father of Scarlett Robin and Edwin Marsh IV. I don't know why, I always see that and I think, I always think it's like the fifth, but it's not, it's, you know, the fourth. You don't care, I get it. He was my teacher, partner, and friend, the most honorable man, and the bravest freedom fighter I've ever known. He taught so many of us how to save the earth from ourselves and to laugh at yet love its enemies. In 1974-75, possession of under 1 ounce of hemp or pot was decriminalized in the state of California. Captain Ed, pictured above, was 33 years old and I was 34. We took a pledge at that time. Virtually everyone in California... At that time, virtually everyone in the California pot movement thought we'd already won. They'd begun to drift away from the movement and had gone back to their lives, thinking the battle was over and that the politicians would clean up the loose ends. Captain Ed didn't trust politicians to get the job done, and he was right. Ed's pledge that took in 1974 and again in April 1980, 86, and 88, and finally in the hospital 4 days before he died in August of 1991, was that we'd swear to work every day to legalize marijuana and to get all pot prisoners out of jail until we were dead. Marijuana was legal, or we could quit when we had turned 84. We wouldn't have quit, but we could. When we first made that pledge, we were 50 years away from becoming octogenarians, 80-year-olds, that is. Incredibly, we thought that in the light of all that amazing information that we had uncovered about hemp, that the battle for complete legalization of cannabis could easily be over in 6 months, 2 years at the most. Captain Ed gave us hemp as one of mankind's most honorable and most important saviors. I vote to continue the fight, and I ask my fellow Californians and all Americans and the rest of the world to join us. Since this edition and now, Jack Hare has passed away, sadly. Publisher's dedication To Jack Harrer, born June 18th, 1939, died April 15th, 2010. Father of Barry, Daniel, Mark, River, and River Chauncey, and they call Benji, BJ. I'm not going to try to pronounce that because I will mess it up and I will feel horrible. Special dedication goes out to Jack's grandchildren, Camilla, Hannah, and Isabel, as well as his widow, Janie Harrer, who continues to work to preserve my father's legacy. I would like to acknowledge and thank Bruce Michael Dickens for recreating and editing the 14th edition of The Emperor Wears No Clothes, as well as the first ebook edition from nothing more than paper copies of previous editions. I would also like to acknowledge all of the editors, contributors, and researchers for all the previous editions of The Emperor Wears No Clothes, and to all who have supported and believed in this information. And his plant could actually change the world in which we live. I applaud your continued fight for the liberation of cannabis, to the end of prohibition, and the end of ignorance in which has far so long sequestered the truth from our collective understandings. The truth is out. Cannabis is the future. So it's Captain Ed and Jack. Okay, so a lot of this is going to be thank yous and dedications, and I'm not going to read them all. There are a bunch. However, I have a few picked out that I thought would be a good addition to the video, so we're going to do that. Dedicated to all the prisoners of conscience in this war against the plant, and to do the enduring spirit of people everywhere who seek the truth, so that we can continue to live on the surface of the earth with all its myriad and abundant natural plant and substances. The purpose of this book is to present an authoritative, historical, social, and economic perspective needed to ensure comprehensive legal reforms, abolish cannabis, hemp, marijuana, prohibition laws, and save the Earth's life system. I wrote my first book on marijuana, and it's the GRASS acronym, in early 1973. At that time, I had no idea that this plant could do anything except maybe make rope, let alone that it was Earth's most important resource for paper, fiber, and fuel, etc. Good stuff. I completed the first Emperor in 1985, after 12 years of recording hemp information. It was meant to be the culmination of highly focused personal crusade with my longtime friend and associate, Captain Ed Adair, to win the right to use marijuana and to educate people about hemp. It was Captain Ed who, since 1973, consistently encouraged me to record and compile the facts I obtained about marijuana. So I gathered a fact here and there. Bigger picture of cannabis hemp and its suppression started coming together. One that I did not originally expect. What came together, fact after imperial fact, was a picture of a world being destroyed by a malicious conspiracy to suppress not a killer weed, but the world's premier renewable natural resource for the benefit of a handful of wealthy and powerful individuals and corporations. I've seen more and more of my friends locked away in prison and or have their homes, jobs, businesses taken from them as a result of the escalating war on drugs. I believe, if I am not mistaken, Joe Biden had his hand in that one 47 years ago or whatever. This has become a nightmare for many of us, many of our best citizens who have trusted their own intellects and, having taken responsibility for their own health, have defined this bad public policy and have become not only prisoners of conscience but actual prisoners of this war. I hope after reading this book you will stand up with me and recognize them, not as outlaws, but as heroes who are attempting to save the seed that will save the planet. Now, people have been drawn into this project whose work has given into scope and dimension, and I could only have hoped for at the beginning. They have brought with them skills and information that have been major contributions to this effort. No egos surfaced as 4 or 5 of us stayed up at night after night. Only the best from each mind was brought forth. When you write a book like the original Emperor, because the information should be common knowledge, is virtually unknown, our teachers and citizens, you always hope someone of great energy and intellect will read it, make it their own, and join in teaching others. Over the years, hundreds, perhaps thousands of people who have read The Emperor Wears No Clothes have thanked me for writing one of their favorite books. At a Grateful Dead concert, one Yale graduate even thanked and hugged me as his favorite author of all times, and I was thrilled. Oh, and he was thrilled that Jack was still alive. He had first heard his mother read him The Emperor when she was a small boy, obviously thinking the 19th century children's classic, The Emperor Wears No Clothes by Chris Hansen Andersen. One day in late 1988, Chris Conrad read The Emperor. He became my ally, and his endless energy, prestigious editing, and publishing talents, Chris worked 40 hours per week for almost 5 months and did it all without any compensation. Yet he worked like he was being paid $1 million for it. During all of this time, Chris's wife, Mick Norris, lent her support in many ways to the project. Also, we extended endless thanks to the rest of our dedicated hemp warriors. Okay. This is where we get into all of those. To Julie Kreschenbaum for her excellent editorial assistance and proofreading, and DSH for editorial assistance and meticulous concern for accuracy and readability. To Doug McCabe for proofreading the editorial comments for the 1990 edition. Thanks to past associate editor and contributing writer Lynn Osborne, who is both a great writer and marijuana hemp energy scientist. Lynn sent out to prove if indeed hemp qualifies as one of Earth's primary renewable resources. He researched the technology needed to bring clean and renewable energy into use on this planet. The results of his brilliant work can be found on almost every page in this book. An excerpt from his paper, Energy Farming in America, is reprinted in the appendix. Lynn's work will teach people all over the world the beauty, necessity, and easiness of energy farming and conversion. There's so many. to Ellen Comp for all her contributions to and editorial help on this 1993 edition, to Ed Kunkel for helping us get over the finish line, and to the printer, and to Chris Conrad for tossing us a lifeline once again at the last minute, and encouragement money and even credit when it hurt. My hope is that this book helps everyone understand the true nature of cannabis hemp, and that you, dear reader, decide to become active in the effort to ending this crime against man and nature. Marijuana Prohibition. This book is meant to provide you with the tools, the incontrovertible facts, and the sense of outrage needed to overcome more than 70 years of continual government lies and suppression of the truth. We have tried to be as factual and accurate as humanly possible, but there will always be revisions, corrections needed. Please send me copies of any documents, materials that will make it into the next edition of The Emperor. And once again, to my 2007 readers and partners in Discovery, thank you for all your documents, clippings, tips you have sent us over the past years. Keep sending us your information and the new information that will help us put the pieces, this puzzle, together for the future editions. You can reach us at emperorupdates@gmail.com. To my many editors, present and past, Leslie, Carbara, Jeff, Myers, and many more. And finally, to my former girlfriend and now my wife, Jeannie Hawkins Hare, whose dedication of this hemp movement and hard work on this book has made me the happiest, luckiest hemp warrior of all. Jack Hare. Okay, let's smoke. So we're just going to kind of get through all of this. I think there's good information in here, and that's why we're reading it. And again, some of it I may skip around to a little bit, but we will get to it all. What are you doing? Okay, forward. My first forward was written in 1985. A lot of time has passed since then, but some things have remained constant. In 1985, I wrote of 600,000 pot arrests nationwide. Last year, in 97, we were still at 62,000 new arrests for marijuana-related offenses. And at least 75% of those cases involved marijuana possessed or grown for personal consumption. 13 years have brought some changes, of course. Today's sentencing laws are even more severe than they were in the 80s. More people are losing their homes for marijuana offenses, and then they were marijuana offenses than they were in the 80s. As a result of the war on drugs, prison building, not schools, has become the new hot growth industry, and the protections of the Fourth Amendment are becoming a fond, increasing vague memory. Another disturbing change has been the heightened, if that is imaginable, of the level of government hypocrisy. Public, sorry, that sounded really, really funny. Where was I? Public proclamations in the county notwithstanding, no one today is imaginable of the level of government hypocrisy. Public proclamations, never mind. Nevertheless, the war rages on. Our medical knowledge alone puts therapeutic value of marijuana beyond question. yet people are still being prosecuted for their purely medical use of cannabis. The government says maybe so, but we're sending a message. Then those 642,000 people that were casualties in this war that have only been a symbolic rationale seems to be an awful waste. I look at my comments of 13 years ago and certain amazements in this world are still accurate. Quite disappointing, actually. I had hoped that we could have put the issue to rest, and that by now Jack's book would have become an historical curiosity. No, the book today is as timely as ever, and the Emperor is still quite naked. Preface. Jack Herer has done it with incredible precision, backed by voluminous research. He has placed his finger on the point where all of these trends that threaten to overwhelm the world come together. And at the core of all these complexities, he has found hemp. The premise of this book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, is fanciful in the extreme that diverse properties of the scorned and condemned marijuana plant can provide sufficient clothing, oil, medicine, fuel, food, and shelter for all the people of the world. If completely legalized and commercialized, and that hemp will prove to be the means of saving the planet from us, from acid rain, global warming, and the depletion of our precious forests and fossil fuels. Further, that the alleged dangers of marijuana smoking pale before the many advantages that are potential in the free commerce in hemp and its byproducts. Now that Jack has pointed out these facts into changing world searching for truth, the people, of course, will quickly set things right by renouncing the 1961 Single Convention Treaty on Drugs and Marijuana and will tool up to produce a wealth of quality, ecologically sounds good for upward mobility society. As a science fiction writer, this view of an altered world of clean skies and lush forests filled with freedom-loving people living in hemp houses, driving their hemp-fueled hemp cars down hemp-lined freeways, dressed in their hemp finery, eating their hemp tofu salad, in this very appealing to me. Jack makes a very good case for it being possible. And in my reading his information, and in my reading his informative book, I find that I am charmed. Apparently, Jack Herer has a dream. His future has hemp fully integrated into society, such as the need for fossil fuels, synthetic fibers, for example, will have been replaced by natural substances that are annually renewable and non-toxic. He sees our intelligence raised and our health improved by the complete edestin protein and essential fatty acids. Linolenic. Linolenic, maybe? I messed that up, I'm sure. And LINOLEIC. That are found in abundance in the flesh and the oil of the hemp seed. He sees how our shelter, food, clothing, medicines, fuels, and mental state will have been spiritually affected for the better because of hemp. He has devoted his life to making his future become true, and I can live in it. Remembering the Emperor. Let's use those. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time. So I don't have them all going. Hey, look, I see you, Billy. I see you, Billy. I see you, Billy. Remembering the Emperor. The book you were holding forever changed my life. When I first read it in 1993, while I had read quite a bit about marijuana, I never read anything like what was presented here by Jack Herer. After reading the book, I called the number on the back to thank him personally for writing "That Emperor Wears No Clothes," and causing me to realize that I had made a wise decision by using cannabis, and that all of the stigma and demonization surrounding this plant was nothing but lies. When I reached his office, they informed me that Jack was busy working on his 1994 Cannabis, Hemp, and Health Initiative, and that if I wanted to meet with him, I should just come up to the office and introduce myself, which I immediately did. I would too. Meeting Jack would be easy, but getting his attention was no easy task. He was surrounded by an army of volunteers who were organizing together over 500,000 signatures in order to get his initiative on the ballot to re-legalize cannabis and free all of the cannabis prisoners who were victims of the war on some drugs. In my good future, not only did I capture Jack's attention, we immediately became inseparable best friends for that year, working together for the initiative, hosting events for the volunteers, working on the book, and then traveling around with the Grateful Dead while working to educate anybody and everybody who would listen. Jack became not just one of the greatest teachers I've ever had in my life. He became like a father to me, a wise sage who knew the ways of the world and would cheerfully share his knowledge. Jack had a heart big enough to welcome a vast amount of people who in many respects are now like extended family to me. I have never met a man with so much going on who would always stop and take time to help anybody in need without any prejudices whatsoever. Jack had a heart of gold, and his extended family proved it. As I stood in tears at the funeral, a sudden feeling of contentment came over me. I could almost hear Jack whispering in my ear that old Dr. Seuss quotation, "Don't cry because it's over, smile because it's happened." Jack not only left many of us smiling, he also left the world a more enlightened place. He not only touched the lives of many, he penetrated the minds of millions, and in doing so enlightened us to the history that was stolen from us. Had it not been for the work of this great man, the Library of Commerce would have gotten away with omitting Hemp for Victory from there, or should I dare say, our catalog, and robbing us all of a history that should have been our birthright to learn. Back in 1994, Jack made me take an oath to work to re-legalize cannabis hemp till all of the prisoners were home. Until I had reached the age of 84 or was dead. I have no intention of letting him down, and I invite you to all join us to help end marijuana prohibition. Okay, and these now are again everybody that worked on the book. So we have a Steve D'Angelo. He validated with historical evidence some truth throughout the entire project. Oh, these aren't. I'm sorry. These are what other people say about Jack. Jack Hare was the only hero I had ever had who didn't disappoint me. The only role model who never disillusioned me. Incredibly consistent and reliable in his passion for life and his unstoppable commitment to cannabis. Jack's greatest depth of character. I don't know why I did that. It gave me a semicolon, so yeah, I didn't miss nothing. Jack influenced me on many levels when he brought us the hidden history of cannabis in its darkest days of the 1980s. He re-inspired a movement badly battered by the vicious propaganda of the Reagan and Bush administrations, and called for a new army of young activists from the heartland of America. I will never forget the adoring looks on the eyes of Midwestern college students as Jack poured forth the gospel of cannabis and reassured them that their love of cannabis was neither destructive nor deviant, but rather a noble quest to save our planet. He validated with historic evidence the same truth that we already intuitively carry in our hearts. He cemented and commented and provided us with objective facts that we need to challenge the warped mythology of drug warriors. Jack's appetite for life is insatiable. He loved the world of sense. Whether he's eating or getting high or having sex, Jack always wanted more, and his energy unfailingly generated a parade of inspired devotees. We will all miss him, I suspect, for as long as we live. From Woody Harrelson. Many years ago, I read the LA Times that Congress had opened up 6 million acres of national forest in Montana to the various extractive industries, timber, coal, oil, allowing them to lay waste to his genuine wilderness. This was my initial introduction to the environment activism and my first battle to save the forest. On one side were all the industries and low-lives congressional whores who do their bidding, and on the other side was a bunch of lefty liberals, those who lefty liberal folks from the entertainment industry. Around this time, I read The Emperor Wears No Clothes, which to me was a eureka moment. Finally, a book that reported the significant substantiality and touted the plant that could be a clue for our salvation. Industrial hemp. Jack had enormous influence on me. He was a true visionary and showed that there were variable alternatives to massacring our forest. His book furthered my evolution as an activist and played a big part in my decision to plant hemp seed in Kentucky in order to provoke a legal distinction between marijuana and hemp. I had a lot of fun and went through plenty of reasoning with Jack over the years. He was one of the finest and most brilliant, courageous warriors for a freer, more sustainable courtyard in my administration, for he knows no limit. I do hope that you, holding this book now, will catch some of his fiery enthusiasm and use that to fight the good fight. Although much has improved, we need you now more than ever. Woody Harrelson. Oh, it tells you he's an American actor. We know he's an American actor. Jack Harrow was a force of nature. He couldn't be denied. He had an internal compass within him that pointed towards the truth. He would let himself go into heart-stopping rage or into incredible self-sacrifice and love without regard for people's feelings or effect on his own health. Captain Ed was a saint, like Jesus, the Christ before him. He took care of people. He would bail them out of jail even when they stole from him. I asked him why, and he revealed, I would do anything to be the captain. They were both activists and natural leaders. Both were bohemians. Both were men of strong character who valued the truth. I found both of them to be an extraordinary, level-headed, sensible gentleman. For the last 50 years or so, I have considered myself like a dog without a collar. I pride myself on having no bosses, probably because of this. I have bonded with less than a dozen people in my life. Among those people were A.E. Van Bach, Forrest J. Ackerman, Ray Bradbury, Charles Bamut. I said that wrong. I'm not even sure. Richard Matheson, Theodore Sturgeon, and it goes on. Like those people on the short list, both were visionaries who could look into the future. Both were kind and loving, and both fine gentlemen. Were merchants who behaved as though their customer was always right, and you were the customer. From Tommy Chong. I met Jack back when we were both young and had a good future. He had a future. He gave me a copy of his book, signed and everything, and schooled me on the politics of marijuana. Until I met Jack, my knowledge was quite sparse and embarrassing considering how rich and famous the magic weed had made me. I knew a little but nothing compared to Jack, who was still is the foremost authority on the marijuana and its offspring, the joint spliffs. I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna have to look it up. Noy ye mentioned the roach. N-O-Y space Y-O and then mention the roach. When it was approved as medical care, Jack found a doctor who would issue us a letter stating that the both of us were in dire need of weed. Actually, Jack was the one who found the doctor and told him what to write. We both had the letter shrunk into wallet-sized cards, which I still carry in my wallet today. Jack and I became good friends, and although we never really traveled in the same circles, we always managed to stay in touch. I would be off with my wife appearing in comedy clubs around the country, while Jack would be appearing at every and all hemp fests and marijuana rallies in the U.S. I don't think Jack was allowed out of the country because of his reputation and possible drug convictions. I, on the other hand, could and did travel frequently overseas, Canada, Europe, thanks to my Canadian citizenship and my USA green card. Jack was a big man in many ways, big in stature, big in mouth, and super big in heart. I loved that big old, big old bear of a pothead, and I was shook when he suffered his first stroke. It was touching seeing the big guy unable to talk. It was tough, not touching. It was tough seeing the big guy unable to talk. This had to be the worst thing that could ever happen to the big guy. Jack loved to talk because he had things that needed saying. When that was taken away from him, I felt a great sadness. It was like the voice of God was silenced. I could see the hurt and frustration in his eyes whenever we met, though soon he was slurring his words and drooling a bit. But he was talking again. And the sadness left, and then he died. I really miss his twinkle. His eyes would twinkle when he talked. He was a big guy with a big heart that loved everyone who took the time to listen to his wisdom and to his philosophy on weed. Jack made me appreciate how important the work we both were doing was, educating the world on the joys of marijuana. Jack was like a big fat joint of the finest weed. He gave pleasure and wisdom to the world, and then he left us to remember his big, joyful, loving self. Okay. I think we're going to leave it there for today. We will be moving into chapter 1. I think I missed something. Remember. So what I'm looking for is this book was given, has an account, and it has $50,000 in that account. If you can prove emphatically that this works, you get that money. So just putting that out here. And we'll be going through it. We'll be doing this once a week. Next week, we're going to be working on chapter 1. The history of hemp. So we'll be doing chapter 1 next week, and then chapter 3 the week after. So, I hope you guys enjoy what we're reading. I know at this point in time it's not giving you really all that much cannabis education per se, except on who wrote the book and what it meant. But that is it for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me for our first bedtime stories and the Jack Harrer, The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Mad.